All right, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. What's going on, people? People of the world. Um, people of the universe. What's up? Good to see you all. We're live on Odyssey, Substack, and on YouTube. People rolling in here, so that's good. She tapes her regrets to the microphone stand. What is that? It sounds like a lyric, but what's that from? Blowvember. All right. Okay. Well, so all right. Got people on all the platforms. Give a shout, give a holler, give a hoot. Don't pollute. Thanks for being here, guys. So, Reflect the Sun over on Odyssey. I see you on Odyssey. All right. Oh, I can't see any. It's weird. Substack is a little bit weird. I wish Substack would kind of get it together just a little bit. But that's all right. Otherwise, they're pretty cool. They have a few kinks. All right. So, big news is that Mamdani won the mayoral race in New York City. And, everybody has something to say about it, negative, positive, to some people he's a Muslim communist who is going to destroy the city. To other people, he is a Israeli-owned fake liberal who is going to let people down immediately. And I I don't have a problem with that take necessarily. I'm kind of just, in my mind, I'm waiting for the, when do the disappointments start from Mamdani? Maybe not because he's a bad person or not for not wanting to try, but it's awful hard to move the needle, even if you're in office. Because the people that really control everything are really powerful. And they have ways of making you talk. Ways of making you obey. It's hard to really be a firebrand and really get going, for the people without, they assassinate whole presidents and destroy whole countries over people trying to do something for the people in other, that it's not even our country. Hey, what are you doing over there? That's setting a bad example. You're making it look easy to do things for people, and we don't want that because we want to continue telling people there's just no way we can do anything for them. So we're going to have to come over there and bomb your country, install our own puppet, and make sure everything keeps running smoothly for us. That's the business. Scott Andrews. That's good. Yeah. So lots of takes. And I will say we'll probably be disappointed. And I will also say his win and the people that went out and voted for him, or the people that are sympathetic to his message, I think represents the actual will of the people, right? So, and again, we can go down the road of like, well, he's subverting the will of the people, because he's taking the will of the people and using that energy and redirecting it. And sure, yes, the will of the people is, I don't like what's going on. That's the will of the people. The general mood is one of nope. General mood is one of nope. Okay, so let's just really Mamdani wins. New York City elects socialist mayor. People might argue that he's not very socialist, but we'll leave the finer points to other people. He's only 34. What did I see in this post that I thought was funny? I saw something that jumped out at me, and now it's not there. He did run on the Democratic ticket, which should also raise an eyebrow, because you can't really get too squirrely and still call yourself a Democrat. I mean, the Democrats all but disowned him in the race. They all but didn't, said like, I don't know. Are you going to support Mamdani? Alex Soros tweeted out a picture of them together with big smiles. Yeah, reflect the sun. Yeah, there's that. There's that. From Black Agenda report, Zoran Mamdani's victory in the New York City mayor's race is inspiring voters across the country to believe that change is possible, but the Democratic Party establishment and its donor class will not give up power easily in New York City or elsewhere. That's kind of the general take I have on it, is that there's a lot of energy to see some change. And will that change ever be realized through electoral politics? Yeah. Democrats have racked up election wins across America, but they would do well not to misread the results, says David Smith in Washington. And a lot of people see this as theater. Again, the taking of the energy of the people and making them believe, here we go, we won, Barack Obama won. Oh my God, what an amazing, victory for the people against this, what was a long slog through, a terrible Bush administration that just gave us the worst of everything. And took away a bunch of power, right? And so everybody really thought like, oh, this overwhelming support for Barack Obama. JP Morgan's Chase, best friend, right? Who turned around and pretty much betrayed most of his promises and then did some really dastardly stuff. And still somehow was very popular among the people. But Rathbone, another blue wave of euphoria before the incoming betrayal. Which is, left or right, red or blue. You vote for somebody thinking like, yeah, that's it. They're going to take, they're going to stick it to the deep state. And then the deep state keeps getting stronger. 7C says it doesn't matter who the mayor is because New York is Chabad HQ. Whoever gets to pretend that they run the city already agreed to work for them. Good take. Cynical, but correct. David Musafir says it's all a big play. Again, we see Jewish heiress makes $250,000 donation to PAC backing Mamdani. Left-wing Jewish group prepares to endorse Mamdani. Jewish congressman endorse Mamdani. The big selling point is that he's pro-Palestinian. or that he's somehow anti Zionist. And a lot of people are trying to say, like, well, no, he's kind of Zionist. First thing Mamdani posts, really, subtly is not one of your skills. Is it Chabad Lubavitch? This is disgusting and heartbreaking act of anti-Semitism. This is Zoran Mamdani from today. As mayor, I will always stand steadfast with our Jewish neighbors to root the scourge of anti-Semitism out of our city. My communities. So this is somebody's posting like a Nazi symbol, and I mean, I don't know. Look, there's a difference between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. So I don't know, right? And if you're a politician, you are going to walk that, right? You're not going to be like, F the Jays. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that, especially in New York City or LA. You would be like, I support the rights of everybody to, live, right? You're going to have to do the thing. Bella says, Yahweh, Allah, Jehovah, Quetzalcoatl, Satan. It's true. Well, I liked a friend of mine was pointing out adheres to the idea that all major religions are actually just like the Democrats and Republicans. They're all the powerful, the higher ups in all of these religions are all just actually in the same club. And they are playing everybody against each other. And it all serves them. So there you go. And we'll get back to who's really doing what. So the last thing on the Mamdani thing. Again, I think the it's like the No Kings March. The No Kings March is a AstroTurf, whatever you want to call it, fake rally funded by billionaires who don't want to see you really unite against them. And they're taking your energy. They're literally farming your energy. But the thing is that the energy is real. So it's important to differentiate between, when I hear people say like the protest, the anti government free love, wave of the 60s was all generated and was all a psyop or whatever. Like when I hear people say that, I'm like, okay, well, maybe elements of it were. Maybe it was infiltrated and steered in a certain direction. I'm positive that's what happened. We know that COINTELPRO happened, but the energy was real, right? What people were feeling was real. You can't just whisk away or wash away or wipe away, people's real emotions around things. And you can acknowledge that those emotions are real and that people identify or agree with certain ideas, and that those ideas aren't bad ideas just because they're being promoted by the wrong people, or that maybe it's an energy suck, doesn't mean the ideas themselves are bad, or that people's identification with the ideas is bad. That is all actually positive. During the 60s revolution, like people really did identify with the ideas of, of freedom, of cultural, changing cultural norms, of wanting to love each other, of not wanting to have war, of not wanting to have a fascist government installed, of not wanting to have the military industrial complex run everything, right? They wanted good things, real things. It was all co-opted in the end, which sucked. But those things were real. That impulse was real, and it was not a bad thing. So you have to, you can't just be like, oh, the poor suckers were taken in by the CIA and they're doing drugs and really liking music. No, I mean, what is wrong with that? So you have to appreciate. You have to appreciate like people's appreciate, and you also have to acknowledge and respect people's true feelings about things. And so, okay, Mamdani won. You don't like him. You think he's fake. That whatever. But people went out and voted him in droves, en masse. And that is actually a great thing, right? That energy is a positive thing. How do you take that energy instead of just saying, "Well, you went and voted. What a stupid ass." Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't say that out loud. Those people want good things. They believe in good things. Why don't you take that energy and steer it into something more positive than calling everybody, a dumbass for taking part in electoral politics? Come on, man. Jackson Pollock. Are you guys saying he was CIA? Yeah. I like Jackson Pollock's work. So what? Whether he's CIA or not, I like his work. I think it's cool. Whether it was, art, fake art, I don't know, whatever. I appreciate it. Michael Jackson Pollock. I don't really, I love the Beatles. Some people say the Beatles were a creation of the tap style. I don't really care. The Beatles were freaking geniuses musically, and I enjoy the shit out of their music. And they actually, really are the blueprint for like a cultural musical phenomenon, like political, social movement, and having music involved in that. They're like, there's nothing, that's not a negative. You can believe they were a creation all you want. I don't know, whatever. Some people like the Monkees. They were totally a creation. Anyways, the thing is that people have these base emotions, these altruistic, authentic emotions around things, and like you have to give them a chance to express that, whether it's voting or something else, right? The urge to involve yourself is something that should be encouraged, not not spat upon. What you should be mad about is the people that are taking that energy and using it for terrible purposes. So I don't know. That was a whole sentence there. I don't know. That's a whole sentence for me. I don't know. It's a fully formed thought. All I want to say is they don't really care about us. That's yep. Right. And then you have like musicians that aren't, might have maybe started with the help of the big guys, the guys on top, and then they're not controllable. And then they get really mad. The examples are, I mean, I don't think Bob Marley was helped in the beginning, but like Bob Marley was a real threat. Kanye West, real threat. Michael Jackson, real threat. Don't forget that John Lennon was, we're talking about the Beatles. Don't forget that John Lennon was assassinated. Real threat. So maybe whether they are creation or not, at one point they felt like his influence, his voice, his power in speaking to people was just a little too much. You're burned out on the Beatles. I mean, I've heard a lot of Beatles, but every time, I don't listen to the Beatles, but like on purpose, but every time I hear a Beatles song and so there are several songs, every time I hear them, I'm just like, just the chord structure and the way that they're written and the way that everything is put together, I'm just like, wow. Like every single time I'm like, wow. There is, if it ain't genius, it's very close to it. I want to play this, not this, not that. Here's a guy talking about how people feel about Mamdani.
...2001. And by the time it's over, it might be the largest turnout since the 60s. Second, these midterm and non-standard elections, they always tend to be a referendum on the party in power. In this case, that would either be Eric Adams or Kathy Hochul, or more obviously, President Trump. And this is what we've seen in every other election taking place. In Virginia and New Jersey, where they're picking new governors, and in California, where those who have already voted say they're overwhelmingly voting to support Proposition 50, the temporary counterweight to partisan redistricting by Republicans across the country. Every one of these other elections, half or more of the voters say their vote is against the status quo. California voters don't even want to redistrict because these radical leftists understand that free and fair elections are actually better than elections that are corrupt but easy to win. These voters are voting out of an obligation to fight against what's wrong, not necessarily out of a passion to build what's right. But in this series of elections, there is one major exception. In New York City, 90% of voters say that they are casting their ballot for Zoran Mamdani, not against someone else, not even Trump. Now, if you aren't super familiar with exit polling, to help you contextualize this number, in 2008, that figure for Barack Obama was about 50%. Half of voters were supporting him because of who he was, and half were voting against John McCain because they were terrified he would continue the Bush administration's policies, leaving Mamdani with a massive gap that for me is easy to explain. He's not winning that kind of loyalty because of who he is or what he looks like. He's not even winning it because he's on the left in a big blue city. Those are part of it, sure, but that alone doesn't explain 30 and 40 point gaps to the norm. In order to understand what makes him different, you have to understand he's not running to win an election. He's running because he feels compelled to help people. When you run because you feel driven by that kind of a commitment, it shows up as joy and passion even in the face of impossibly challenging work. Ultimately, regardless of what happens, and regardless of whether or not he's able to find success in the face of well-funded barriers, one thing has become increasingly clear. Every candidate on the left who wants to find success between now and 2028 needs to look no further than the why of Zoran Mamdani.
Okay, so some people might be throwing up in their mouths at what this guy is saying, but the polls tell you something about how people feel, right? And so it's not, this is not a isn't Mamdani so cool post. What he's talking about specifically is how do people feel, right? Are you against something? Or are you for something? Are you voting for something because you're against? And man, he nailed the Prop 50 thing. He's like, even leftists see that Prop 50 is wrong. I have problems with Prop 50, even though everybody was, won Prop 51. And everybody was like, yeah, this is the best. We need to do this. It's just partisan, fisticuffs, right? Like, well, we need more people in Congress because F them guys. We, whatever it is that we can do, it's okay if we cheat because they're cheating, right? Kind of that's kind of the sentiment. Well, we don't care if they're doing the wrong thing. We got to, if this is the wrong thing, we don't care because this will give us an edge. Wrong. That's not how you live life or do anything. Oh, I got to take steroids because everybody else is taking. No. Wrong. But that it's kind of where we are in the world is that, doing things authentically or altruistically is a rarity or seems to be more rare. And people are totally all right with getting over cheating, bullshitting their way through something because everybody else is getting over cheating and bullshitting their way through something, which is terrible, which just makes society a cesspool. Yeah, so Prop 51, they approved it. It's not going to last forever, although, there's a good chance with a majority Democratic, state legislature, that they'll extend it if they feel like they need to. Measure passed by a significant margin, with 64% of the votes counted supporting it as of early Wednesday morning. Gavin Newsom championed Prop 50 as a direct response to Republican-led redistricting efforts in Texas and other states at the urging of President Donald Trump, framing it as a defense of democratic norms. They're gerrymandering, so we'll gerrymander. The new congressional maps drawn by the Democrat-dominated legislature will be in effect for 2026, 2028, and 2030 election cycles, after which the independent commission will resume redistricting duties based on the next census. Just because everybody is supporting it, everybody on your side is supporting it, doesn't necessarily mean it's a great thing. Again, but people are just like, how do we fight this? So, they're selling you something kind of crappy, but giving you, the idea that, like, well, we need, terrible things are going on in the country, and we got to do everything that we can to somehow push back on this. Yeah, unfortunately, Scott, methinks you're right, but the theater sucks. But I gotta say that how do we take the energy, the real energy that people have to do the right thing, and somehow get, that's the $1 trillion question, is where and how do we redirect the energy that people have to do the right thing, the correct thing, or get somehow on the right side of anything. How do we direct that towards things that are more real, more substantial, more beneficial, long lasting? I don't know. In Wales, there was more floods. Gosh, wasn't it there a bunch of floods yesterday? Now there's a bunch of floods today. It's really interesting because I saw like an Instagram post by someone, and it was a little bit, it was a little all over the place. Basically, this post was about, it was a guy saying like, oh, we've known how to control the weather. You're seeing all these weather things happening, and we know that the weather is not the same anymore, and kind of implicating that it was all controlled and that we know how to make weather and like control the weather. And then like it suddenly shifted into climate change causing bigger storms, and all these storms affected poor people, and that was structural racism. I was kind of like, I don't know where this is going. Like, what are you actually saying? Although I can appreciate the knowledge that he was coming with, but like the message was like, he even went into fossil fuel companies fueling all kinds of misinformation about like what's actually going on, and that is absolutely true. I appreciated the standpoint that like it could be numerous things happening all at the same time. It just that he moved through like so many different like viewpoints in the space of like 2 minutes. I was like, I don't know what's happening. I have no idea, but I appreciated the effort. Dang it. But Wales got hit, as pretty much everybody gets hit eventually. Major incident declared in parts of Wales after flooding triggers hundreds of calls. I'm going to call somebody. Why won't this show up? This is annoying. Oh, you guys, is my stream kind of slow? I had my VPN on. Sorry. Somewhat choppy. Yeah, thanks. I turned it off. Major incident declared in parts of Wales after flooding triggers hundreds of calls. Dozens of people have been rescued from flooded homes. In the Carmarthenshire area, 3 people were saved from a vehicle trapped in a fast-flowing water. More than 30 dogs were rescued from flood-affected kennels at a shelter. 48 people were rescued from a care home. More than 40 people were helped to safety from flooded homes. 3 people were rescued from a vehicle. It's just another day of extreme weather taking people out of their homes. Nothing to see here. Everything's fine. Okay. Yeah. Well, when I turn off the VPN, everything, chunks up for a second and then it'll come back. Sorry about that. Sorry, I was neglecting Odyssey. Workers strike back. Kshama Sawant's organization that doesn't take corporate money won't have photo ops with Soros or any other billionaire. There you go. And that is how it should be, right? And, you should. Maybe Mamdani is just doing everything that he thinks he has to do to win, or maybe he is compromising himself. And a lot of people would say, like, yeah, that part. Maybe you shouldn't compromise yourself if you actually really want to do something for the people, especially if you have 90% of the people, 90% of the people voting for you saying, like, we really like what you have to say. Hope you can deliver, hope one more time, hope and change. Anyways, Wales is getting the weather machine today. I'm joking. An Italian journalist was fired after asking this question. The EU demands that Russia participate in rebuilding Ukraine. Is Israel going to participate in the rebuilding of Gaza? So, free speech being what it is, and Israel not controlling it, literally everything, because they control literally everything, and all of your politicians. And if you don't think that's correct, then I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. The spokesperson avoided a direct answer after the question, and soon after, Nunziati, who was the Italian journalist, Gabriele Nunziati, was reportedly fired by his agency, Agenzia Nova.
For the reconstruction of
Sorry.
Gaza, since
Where
they
is this?
have destroyed almost all the streets. Do you believe Israel should repay for the reconstruction of Gaza, since they have destroyed almost all the strip and the civilian infrastructures? Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriele. It's definitely an interesting question on which I would not have any...
It's a very interesting question. Oh, I'm sure, Scott. I'm sure that'll be what happens. Let's see. Meanwhile, So this is real, real energy. I don't know who put this together, but the energy of the people is real. Ford Fisher is showing this. There is a large march at the Capitol called Refuse Fascism, or the organization is called Refuse Fascism. I don't know anything about it. Holds fall of the Trump regime march to Capitol.
Trump must go now! Trump must go now! Trump must go now!
It's a good jam.
Trump must go now! Let's march, DC!
All right, we're marching. Let's go.
I'm looking at Refuse Fascism, the website. Do they say who funds this group? I don't have high hopes about this. Let's see. About who are we? We the people must act together, united from one demand. Trump must go now. See the partners list. National Organization for Women, Resist Trump, Flare. All right. Revolutionary Black Panther Party. Okay. Together Across America. Who's that? That looks weird. Well, I don't see any like obvious things jumping out at me, but this might be, and I say this very, very tepidly, this might be like a non-co-opted thing. I don't know. What's Together Across America? I want to see who is this. Oh, what is Together Across America? I see a kind of a small fundraiser going on. It looks like it's probably not. I guess it's not anything. All right. Well, Refuse Fascism might be less co-opted than No Kings. I don't know. Together Across America is a plan to overcome growing political division by mobilizing a mass movement across party, gender, race, and class to center unity and democracy. All right, it sounds pretty good, right? A nothing burger. Okay. Sure. What people are concerned, by the obvious things that are happening under the Trump administration that they don't like, that they see that they don't like. And, the troops in the cities and ICE, ramming people and shooting people and going crazy, and, no lack of due process. And now people are losing jobs and funding, and the economy doesn't seem to be going much better. And there just doesn't seem to, it seems like the Trump administration is not popular at all. Right. But what they're there to do is advance the technocratic, panopticon, for lack of a better description, to install the Palantir and the AI and the everything into everything, so that people can be, further propagandized, corralled, watched, surveilled, controlled. And that is what people should really be concerned about. And obviously, the Democrats are on the same side of this, right? Democrats are not. You never hear Democrats talking about, what about the technocracy? What about the injection of Palantir and AI into everything? I don't hear any Democrats talking about that. Why? Because they're all funded by the same people. They all invest in the same companies. They're all part of the club, and you're not in it. Raising wages and taxing the rich fights fascism. It's a step. Anyways, let's listen to this from Kim Iverson and Derek Bros talking about the Trump administration's implementation of a technocratic government.
I had so much hope for a Trump presidency. I really did. I knew I didn't want Biden or Kamala.
Are you serious,
that's for
Kim?
sure. Didn't like what they were up to. Certainly didn't like what Democrats did during COVID and how they were consolidating power and implementing control over all of us. I mean, that was pretty dystopian. And so I think a lot of people voted for Donald Trump thinking that he would unwind all of that, right? That he would ensure that that type of thing can't happen. And you're right. It has been, I just had so much hope for the guy.
Really thought
and now I just think he's the worst president of my lifetime. And it's not,
there's
a lot of things he does that are identical to what George Bush did or what Obama did when it comes to droning people, killing people, endless regime change wars, all of that stuff.
I had so much hope when I voted for Mamdani.
On top of it,
now he's the worst mayor of my life.
The marching in of the consolidation of power. And it's all done under the guise of, well, Doge is cutting all of these programs. Doge is getting, we need to consolidate. We need to get rid of things. Oh, but then we're going to put Palantir in charge of all of our data. So rather than our data being dispersed amongst a bunch of bureaucratic administrations.
Creative experiments. This is one thing that escapes Democrats. And was if it wasn't frightening and galling to a major degree, this is the thing that was absolutely hilarious, because Trump signed, implemented Operation Warp Speed. Trump, was the person behind developing the COVID vaccines. And the whole time everybody, but he was playing at like being like a freedom loving, I don't know about these masks and take your hydroxychloroquine or how do you say it? I'll get back to that. I take your ivermectin, right? He fronted as an outsider, like to the narrative of COVID, to the health narrative, but he was behind all of it, right? And so Democrats were like, yeah, we, get rid of Trump. We need our masks and our vaccines. And it was like, dude, he's the one giving them to you. You understand that? The lockdown part of COVID lockdowns, the suspension of your rights and the tanking of the economy part of the COVID lockdown thing. He was totally part of that. And that's the part you should have been scared about. But, he was as much a part of like all of that stuff as anybody else. And, Biden wasn't your friend on that either. Anyways, COVID did a really great job of just insert scrambler into brains and just whiz. And like, oh, I don't know. Nobody knows anything about anything, right? But people are out there like really loudly, like, yeah, wear your mask, F the vaccine, blappity boop, bah. We need freedom, lock them up, fire them, that was just a great example of getting everybody all riled up about something that both sides were like, at the end of this, nobody will know what's happening to them. Anyways.
We instead have one place with all that. It's like, what do you think they're going to do with that one place where they centralize all the data? Like, obviously, it's now going to be a lot easier for them to figure out whether or not you and I behaved, right? And we're doing the things that we're supposed to be doing. And that, I mean, talk about, people have been so afraid of the social credit score system with China, so afraid of the passport, vaccine passport type things, or digital IDs, digital currency, all of these things. And yeah, this guy is marching us faster towards all of that.
Absolutely.
He's not unwinding it at all.
No, it's advancing quite fast. So I'd love to point out a couple of specifics here for the audience who maybe have missed this, because as I said, things are moving quite fast. Briefly, to your point about the drone bombing and these other issues that we could spend all day on, I think it's so important for people to understand that I've been calling it lately the baton of tyranny. So Bush, post 9/11, starts doing whatever he wants, says he has permission because, well, terrorists are bad and we need to protect America. Obama promises he's going to come, change things. We're going to go after the torturers, et cetera. Then he gets into office and says it's time to look forward, not backwards. And he does it even worse, and then drops more drone bombs than any president. And then Donald Trump comes in the first time. He drops even more drone bombs than Obama in the first year. He also issued an executive order which ended the reporting requirement. So now, since Trump's first term, we have no idea how many drone bombs Biden dropped and how many Trump has dropped already, besides what we're publicly seeing with these boats. But it's that same alleged justification that Obama used to say, hey, I can drone bomb anyone in the world, violating other countries' borders if somebody's a threat to America. And now Trump is using that same justification. It's no longer about Muslim terrorists in the Middle East. Now it's about alleged cartel members, alleged gang members, and drug dealers. But it's the same alleged legal justification. It's never really been tested in the courts, but Trump is just taking that baton that was used by Bush, used by Obama, used by Trump, used by Biden. And I think that's important for people to understand, because I think you're right as well. A lot of people voted for Trump because they had some faith or hope or belief that it would be the opposite or something different, at least, than Biden, Kamala. I wrote an article back in October 2024, just a year ago, saying election 2024, Zionist technocrats versus Zionist technocrats, and showing the various people who were funding both sides. And not to be cynical or black-pilled, but to try to give a bit of a reality check and to get people to think that, ultimately, unfortunately, both of these sides of the equation are funded by the same people. So who knows what it would have been like under Biden or under Harris, if it would have moved faster, slower, et cetera. I tend to argue it might have been maybe a little slower, because in this case, the MAGA folks are ready to make any excuse for Trump and claim it's good for us. One example is the first focus of my first article, which is public-private partnerships. You've probably heard about this throughout COVID, Kim. Most people were talking about it largely because of the World Economic Forum. World Economic Forum announces in June 2020 the Great Reset Initiative, and it's time to remake capitalism, et cetera, et cetera. They call themselves the International Organization for Public-Private Partnerships. So they're like, we're the big guys who really champion this cooperation between private industry and governments. And at that time, many people were rightfully critical of it, saying, hey, this is corporatism, or maybe a step towards fascism or cronyism. At the least, it's something that's not good. And this is one of the ways that organizations like the World Economic Forum get their foot in the door, so to speak, and start promoting their agendas by partnering with governments, and then through that trying to force DEI and things like that, right? So people were very much against this. Well, now under Trump, just in the first 10 months here, in my article, I talk about a number of purchases that have been done. We got the big one is the Intel 10% stake, the U.S. government buying 10% stake in Intel. There's several other mining companies I found as I was researching this. So under Trump, there's already, I believe it's up to 6 now companies that the U.S. government has bought stock in, stake in, and they have different kind of quid pro quo going on. But this is clearly a public-private partnership where Trump is saying the U.S. government is going to now own 10% of this chip maker. We're going to get profits on the back end. And of course, he's trying to spin it like this is going to be good for the American people, as if we're going to see profits or something like that.
Right.
I highly, highly doubt that. But, my point with that is that had this been Biden or Harris or Obama, people would have said, hey, that's socialism, that's fascism, that's corporatism. And there's been, mostly silence from the MAGA crowd about these things, or they're celebrating it because, again, they're being told it's for their good of America. But there's a number of different incidents like this that I call out in this article.
Okay. Well, you get the idea. And Derek Rose is running it down correctly. Got one more video for you on the same lines, which is biometric consent is the digital ID, from Greg Reese. Huh. Right. Guys, like the video if you're watching. I know it's weird. YouTube is just totally weird because they're, just really trying to let you know that nobody's watching, which is, frustrating. But I know there are a lot more eyes on here than it looks like. So like the video when you get a chance, wherever you're watching, whatever platform you're on. If you could, please like the video, retweet it somewhere, repost it somewhere, share it somewhere, etc., etc. All right. And if you want to support the show, you know how to do it. Lots of links in the description box. And you can support me at Substack. All right, so here is the Reese report. Biometric consent is the digital ID. Sound.
Prior to the 2020 lockdowns, buy now, pay later services were obscured from most of the market. A firm was founded in 2012 by PayPal co-founder Max Levchin, but was only used on high purchases by a small handful of merchants. After the 2020 lockdowns, as people's money became weaker, sudden partnerships with Apple Pay and Amazon, a Super Bowl ad, and an IPO brought Affirm and the entire buy now, pay later scheme to a public already slipping into debt. The first year saw an over 400% increase in people using buy now, pay later services to buy essentials, including groceries, gas, and paying their utilities. Starting in 2024, Affirm has been gradually rolling out its new requirement for biometric identification. Once again, this is the old-fashioned problem, reaction, solution scheme being deployed. Under the guises of safety and fraud prevention, the buy now, pay later industry will soon require biometric ID, and Visa is following close behind. Visa launched their payment passkey in 2024, which allows you to voluntarily make purchases with your phone's built-in biometrics. Visa aims to be biometric first by 2026. The international banking cartel has made it clear that this is where we are headed. It's the only way the crypto AI control grid can function. While many of us can clearly see this as a major upgrade for tyranny and an affront to human free will, many are perfectly content with an authoritarian state. The 2020 lockdowns seemed to have reinforced this.
Tyranny and authoritarianism doesn't always look like what we think it looks like. They can go the 1984 jackbooted thugs with the boot on the face sort of tyranny, or they can go the Aldous Huxley Brave New Worlds, drugging people with soma and making them love their servitude kind of a tyranny. And either one is bad, but at the very least, when you have the 1984 police state, Big Brother kind of police state, at the very least, people know that there is a tyrant and they know that the boot is on their face. I think there probably is a point at which you've invested your identity so much in a certain political propaganda line that it would be very difficult for you to come back from it, which is why I think the COVID conversation basically disappeared so quickly, because so many people probably understood intuitively they'd been had, but no one wants to talk about it.
An FAA waiver issued last March made it legal for government agencies and local police to operate drones beyond a visual line of sight and over large crowds of people here in the US. And since then, California company Skydio is now deploying its quadcopter drones in just about every major US city. These drones have thermal imaging cameras. They're operated without a human user, and they have been deployed by Israel since October 2023 to track, trace, and murder tens of thousands of non-combatant Palestinians. The very same drones used by the U.S. Department of War to surveil its enemies, the same drones used by Israel to ethnically cleanse what's left of Palestine, are now being launched every day in most major U.S. cities to track and trace every individual. The new financial system is now ready to be born out of the ashes of the old, and all that will be required in order to buy and sell will be your consent to the biometric digital ID. Greg Reese reporting.
Agree to our new All right, right on time.
The Reese Report is now fully funded by my Substack subscribers. Subscribe today and support my...
Okay. Support Greg Reese if you want to. Right on time. I'm going to end the show at 1. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you being here, and we'll be back tomorrow at the regular time. Regular time, 12 p.m. Pacific. Y'all are smarter than the average bear, and keep up all the big brain activity. Okay, look at the big brain on Brett. I was watching Pulp Fiction the other day, and I just remembered all the lines. All the really great lines from that movie. All right, guys. Take it easy, but not too greasy. Peace.
Thank you.